Hello, my name is Jordan Nagel, and then this is my presentation on the impact of independent living programs with adults diagnosed with autism. And I apologize if my camera's a little laggy. I don't know why it's doing that. Now, to get started with our introduction, an autism diagnosis can be devastating to any family, no matter the demographic, the social economic status, or any other background variable. Now, there have been a lot of resources recently that help account for the shock and knowing what to do once you have that diagnosis. Now, there's a lot of resources for early life for those diagnosed with autism, but once they reach this point of about 18 years old, they reach a huge cliff called a service cliff. And a service cliff is an age where services sharply decline due to their approach of adulthood. Now, there are few, if no, resources that really are there to help with it currently, but there are resources that are trying to spread a voice and trying to tell everyone that it's coming and that it's an issue that we need to work on, and it's becoming a bigger issue as of late. That's why I believe independent living programs that are designed to help those diagnosed with autism as they approach adulthood will help them further their education, engage in better employment, and better executive functioning. Oh my. Now, some programs that are already in place, one, we have the STEP program. And the STEP program focuses on executive function skills to help with real life college scenarios. Now, these scenarios that they specifically did were dorm rooms, which dorm rooms could be loud, they could be obnoxious, and they can create a lot of overstimulation for someone diagnosed with ASD. Now, the way they resembled their study was they would have a graduate student sit with them in a dorm-like room, and while they were in that room, they would have other graduate students create noise or just a average dorm room scenario you might engage in. And when they did this, they had them individually rate their confidence level and their comfortableness being in that room by themselves and moving on to not having that grad student there with them anymore so they could be on their own. Now, another project that is currently going on that's more government based is the REYASS project. Now, this project is from the government, it's from the Department of Labor, and they're putting it forth to kind of change the interviewing process for someone who is diagnosed with ASD to be more socially friendly. So when you go for an interview, you might be asked a lot of questions, you'd be really nervous because they're kind of putting you on the spot and it's very socially awkward. But rather than doing that, they propose that we make it more functionally related so they can show their skills. Like if it's like writing or putting something together, they put their functional skills in place for the interviewer so they can see what they're capable to do without actually verbally telling them. Another thing that they have tried to propose is allowing someone who's diagnosed with ASD to wear noise cancellation headphones while working to kind of reduce the amount of sound that they might be indulging while working and being in like a grocery store or any scenario where it might be like very loud for them. And lastly, they proposed a separate break room or a more quiet break room that they're allowed to go to on their own and just kind of relax if they do get overstimulated or they just need a place to go and calm down. And another group focused on teaching skills like cooking, cleaning, and self-advocacy. Now, this study also used graduate students and a confidence level rating from the individual diagnosed with ASD to see how comfortable they felt doing each task on their own. I mean, obviously you can't judge self-advocacy based off a rating, so you just have to see them actually employing and doing that activity. Now, another group focused on the college scenario, but more in a classroom. And a college classroom can be very big, it can be very small. You could have 300, or you could have 10 people, or even less, or even more than 300. Who knows? But what they did is they had a assistant with the individual diagnosed with ASD, and that assistant would stay with them in that room to ensure that they were okay, and they would also teach the teacher or the professor on how to deal with certain scenarios that may come up with the individual diagnosed with ASD. And one thing that they did employ were quiet rooms. And what quiet rooms were is that it allowed the individual diagnosed with ASD to step out and kind of relax and compose themselves before they were to come back to the classroom. Now, some opposing research, or people who kind of think differently about these programs and how they work, they focus more on financial issues and the different levels that someone diagnosed with ASD may face. Now, the average cost for an autism diagnosis or services is about $30,000 a year, which can add up a lot if you take, because that's the average, so it could be more, it could be less, of course. And that's 18 years of $30,000 going out just for that. And that's not even accounting for other things your child may need. Now, Medicaid services, which you can see by this graph right here, it sharply declines once you hit that age of 18, and it even declines even sharper after that. So this is due to the fact that when you turn 18, you need to reapply for Medicaid yourself. Your parent can no longer do it for you. And a lot of individuals diagnosed with ASD aren't able to apply on their own because they can't. They don't have the functional skills to do so, or they don't know how to do it. And as this is stated by the U.S. government accountability office, that this gap that is present from child or adolescence to adulthood, that bridging the gap, is very underfunded, and they're self-aware of that. And this is important because Medicaid's top two services that are provided are day-to-day services and case management. So losing those day-to-day services can be very bad for families who may have to both work, like both parents have to work, they don't have anyone to watch their kid. So that's completely gone, and they need to find other people who can do it for them. Lastly is the severity gap, which is if someone has profound autism. They're diagnosed with autism, but they also have an intellectual disability as well. And like I said before, those day-to-day services come in place when their child needs 24/7 care, and that is no longer offered to them. Now, some implications from taking in the programs that work and then the people who said they don't work for their own reasons. Creating a plan for someone diagnosed with ASD when they are younger can be a way to account for, or not account for, but teach these skills earlier so they're not coming up out of nowhere once they reach adulthood. If you're able to teach someone they're younger, it's even better. Now, another thing we need to do is we need to teach parents about laws and deadlines and other resources that they can use for their child diagnosed with autism, which the Autism Speaks Foundation has a toolkit that goes through all of that. Now, another part of this is just needing a lot of effort from parents, from professionals around them, to kind of spread the message and really try to put in their own effort beyond what professionals themselves can provide to them. And going back to the last slide, how I said case management was one of the top two things that Medicaid service for or paid for, can come in really handy here, because having a case manager that can focus on the law aspect, what skills they need to know, and what services they need, like what therapies they may need, can be very important. Now, my own personal reflection to this assignment is that I am in ABA. I want to become a BCBA, so I'm in a lot of classes currently where I'm learning about the fundamentals of ABA and the ethics, research methods, and obviously this course and a lot of other classes I've taken in the past. So I have a cousin who is diagnosed with autism. He's 6 years old now, and I've been around since his first birthday because I moved here just before he turned one. And I care for my aunt and uncle a lot because they cared for me, and I care for him a lot because he's my cousin and he's basically my brother in a way. So one thing that I really worry about is that because my aunt and uncle are older, they're both approaching their 50s, and he's only 6. So it really makes me scared in a way that he's going to be getting older, stronger, taller, and they might not be able to do anything about like certain behaviors he might do because they are older and they don't have any way to take care of that. So I wanted to focus and really find out if there was any programs to kind of help them with that gap as it approaches. Because I've even asked them if they have any plans, and they say they don't. They're more focused on now, but like they've set up like special needs trust, and they're trying to focus on what they can do now to try and avoid any issue that may come in the future. Now to our conclusion. As you can see, there are programs that are trying to promote multiple working independent living programs. And from these programs that are designed to help those diagnosed with ASD, they are proving to help them with their furthering education, going to college, their executive function skills, and trying to improve their ability to be employed and helping them once they are employed to stay employed. Now, the way I personally think after doing this assignment is in ABA, we have a functional assessment where we take into account all the behaviors and skills we want to focus on with our client. Now, the way I think we can use that here is that if we make a plan for when a child is young and they get first diagnosed, we can make a plan that spans their entire childhood to adulthood and even beyond to try and account for all the legal things, financial things, anything that can come up for them, so we know it's coming and we can approach it through that plan. Now we can change that plan. Obviously, you can't make a year like a lifelong plan, but you can make itty bitty changes as you go along. But creating that initial plan will make it a lot easier for families to organize everything going on and make sense of what they need to do. And here are my references, and thank you for listening.